Connecticut's future looking a lot greener now that the recreational marijuana bill has been signed into law.
I think it's been a long time coming. I think it'll be good for the state.
I mean, other states are doing it. Why not Connecticut?
But what exactly does the new law mean for Connecticut, and what happens now? Well, here's a breakdown. Starting next week on July 1st, people 21 and older can legally have up to 1.5 ounces of cannabis on their person. Up to 5 ounces will be allowed in a locked container in your home or in your car's trunk or glove box. You'll have to wait longer to buy cannabis from dispensaries or grow it. Retail sales are expected to begin in 2022. And anyone 21 and older will be able to grow plants in their homes starting on July 1st, 2023, with households capped at 12 plants at any given time. And another note about those retail sales, towns and cities will have the option to deny dispensaries from operating within their borders. However, cities and towns must hold a referendum on whether marijuana sales should be allowed in the community if at least 10% of voters petition for that referendum. Moving on to enforcement, the legislation prohibits smoking marijuana while driving or riding in a car. And when it comes to where you can and cannot smoke, smoking marijuana would generally not be allowed in those places where cigarettes are already banned. The governor's office is expected to issue more guidance about enforcement in the coming days.
We're going to do a detailed briefing on the law and how that impacts policing.
Reporting for Fox 61 News, I'm Angelo Bavaro.
Angelo.